So before I get into my thoughts on what is appropriate use and inappropriate use of AI, let me first kind of give you a little bit about my background. So I've been working in the field of machine learning and data science for over 15 years, and most of that, and especially recently, has been within the entertainment industry itself. I've worked in Washington, D.C., building machine learning systems for various three-letter agencies. Those machine learning is kind of the precursor to what is now AI. It's not all of what makes up what is now AI, but it's a significant portion of it. And I think this gives me a unique perspective in terms of bridging the kind of technology and also the entertainment, the creative, and the business side, because I kind of have had experience working across all of that. And I want to share with you how I feel about AI's use in creative endeavors such as writing that inform both my approach as an author and as a developer. Let me start by first categorizing AI and the way you can use AI into two camps. And the first camp is what I'll call generation. And this is where you use AI, you use LLMs to generate prose or to kind of in any way actually like take something from an idea and create text that didn't exist before. And the second camp is what I would call editing, feedback, research. It's a little bit more of a big tent and requires a little bit more careful discussion on how you can use it or when it should be appropriate to use. But those are the kind of two broad camps that I like to segment AI into. And so first, let's talk about generation. And this is essentially where I would say you should not use AI at all on the generation side in your writing. And there's a lot of different reasons, but let me just first start by describing what it is. So generation is essentially where you give it a prompt where you say like, hey, here's my outline for my book. Can you write it? Okay, that's one way you can do it. Or you can give it a log line, even as simple as a log line, and say, can you write my book? Or if you're not writing a book, maybe you're working on a movie, you can say like, hey, here's my scene. Can you create the scene? Can you generate the scene based on my description? So in my opinion, these are inappropriate uses of the technology in your creative process. And let me kind of break that down on why I think that's the case. So there's two reasons. So the first reason people will often give you is that it sucks at it, which is true. If you ask AI to generate a book or generate prose, anyone who's tried this and actually read the prose can quickly see that the prose sucks. But I don't think that's a good reason why you shouldn't use it, because if you compare the output of the prose from say the first ChatGPT versus the output from the prose now, it's gotten considerably better. And if you have a really good prompt, and some of the tools out there, I think even with raised letters, you could generate a really good prompt. It will generate like prose that are not terrible. And it's everything you're seeing right now. This is as bad as going to get as it's ever going to be, and it's only going to get better. So at some point, it will be able to generate good prose. And so I don't think that's a good reason for why you shouldn't use it. The reason why you shouldn't use it is because it's not yours, right? Like if you're writing a novel, if you're making a movie, if you're making an animation, the thing that you're trying to do is you're trying to create something. You're a creator. You're telling a story that's never been told before, right? And only you can tell it, because all of the details, all the nuance, like if you're writing a movie, how you shoot the scene, if you're making a movie or producing a movie, how you shoot the scene, how the actors, bring it to life. All of that is a uniquely human experience and a uniquely human endeavor. And even if it's not a uniquely human endeavor, it's uniquely your endeavor. So the whole reason for you to even write a sentence is you want to tell a story. But if you're not telling it, it's not yours, right? So don't even bother. That's how I see it. So I'm really kind of like really strongly opinionated about this one. If there's ever a case where there's a fully AI, AGI thing out there that exists, and it writes its own novel and people love it, that's great, right? Because it's created something, more power to it, but it's not yours. You should create your own thing. Okay, so that's basically the first camp. Generative AI, you shouldn't use it, not because it sucks, but because it's not yours. So let me talk about all of the non-generative AI. And this is still a little bit nuanced. So let me further subdivide this into two categories. First, the first category we'll call the non-controversial use of AI, and then controversial use of AI. So the non-controversial use of AI is anything that most authors already use some form of software in their writing process. Spell check, for example, grammar, right? Spell check and grammar, I hate to break it to you, but usually the most advanced versions of it are using something called LSTMs, which is like a neural network. So you're kind of already using AI in your writing. So for like those hardliners, I hate to break it to you, it's there. Now, for the slightly more controversial side is the things that most writers rely on human feedback for. What am I talking about here? I'm talking about the developmental edit, the copy edit, the line edit, the prose checks, all these, the beta reader, right? All of these things where you are going to, get some human feedback, and based on that human feedback, try to get your novel ready for, or get your writing, whatever you're creating, ready for publication, ready for, kind of putting it out there. And it's these cases where I actually do believe there's a place for AI in the creative process. Let's talk about the more controversial side, which is essentially editing of any kind. And I think this is where a lot of writers or anyone in this space gets a little bit squeamish, because they're gonna kind of fall into these two camps again, right? There's the it sucks at it camp, which it can if not built correctly. And there's this is a human endeavor and should be left to humans. It's part of the creative process and should be left to humans. And let me address both one by one. So first, let's start with the it sucks at. And you're right, it can suck at it. If you're just using an off-the-shelf tool like ChatGPT or Claude or Grok, etc., you're most likely not going to get very good feedback on your manuscript. And there's a lot of reasons behind that, and that's not the purpose of this video. And I have a lot of other videos on my channel about how we handle each of these things, and there's going to be more to come. But these are, I would say, an engineering problem, not a technology problem. And so, like, you can even test this out. Like, if you want to get good feedback with a perfectly well-crafted prompt and a perfectly kind of executed kind of context building, you can get some good feedback from one of the off-the-shelf tools. It's time-consuming. You have to keep regenerating it, etc. There's a lot of problems with that. But let's just, kind of put this inside the same bucket of the criticism that the kind of generator side face, where like it sucks isn't a good argument, because that can be engineered around and will only get better. All right, now, so about the other camp, should it be left to humans, or this should be left to humans? And this is actually where I have to politely disagree with a lot of the kind of anti-AI crowd. Let's say, for example, we just take this argument and extend it into the future by 15 years. Basically, there's no distinction between the AI and a human. Now, in this case, the point is, it doesn't matter where you get your feedback from. The point is it yours? Okay. Now, so if you can now get good feedback that helps you unlock your story, tell about a better story, clean up your prose, help you discover your own voice. If the AI tools now can help you with those things, I don't see anything wrong with that. Okay. A lot of writers that are like maybe a little bit more professional, they have access to these things in the form of their developmental editor and their copy editor and their circle of beta readers, right? They have access to all these things, and a lot of writers don't. And what these new tools do is they begin to democratize the creative writing space, whereas it's oftentimes filled with people who have the time to go to 4 years of creative writing class and build up their circle of friends. And a lot of these people, like, more power to you, but a lot of times they're in their own heads and they are really great at telling stories, but they don't have much of a story to tell. And conversely, there's so many people that have lived rich and interesting lives and have a story just waiting under the surface to be uncovered, but they don't search for it because they lack the confidence or the grammatical polish or the craft skills to be able to tell it effectively. And that's what I think is so amazing about the recent developments, is that there's really the potential for a great democratization of the creative storytelling space, where you're going to be able to allow more voices to be heard, more stories to be uncovered that wouldn't have been told before. And that encapsulates my motivation and philosophy behind Raised Letters. It is designed to unlock and elevate human creativity.